Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lacson wishes to suspend interpellation at this point for a later time. May we now recognize Senator Alan Peter Cayetano for the continuing interpellation on the budget of the dpwh.
Senator Alan Peter Cayetano is recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, and may I ask if the good sponsor would allow me to ask a few questions?
Certainly, Your Honor. With pleasure.
Magandang hapon po sa ating DPWH family. I'd just like to first ask, Your Honor, about the implementation of the laws regarding right-of-way, because together with many others here, my father sponsored or authored the law on when you deposit the zonal value, the judge is supposed to order that the DPWH can take possession and use the projects. And I've been working with a number of gentlemen behind you when I was a congressman, and until now with some of our funds. And I've noticed that some judges, despite the clarity of the law, have a different interpretation. For example, precisely why it is in court is because the owner would not like to receive or does not agree that the value given to him is the fair value. Let's say if the land is zonal value is 1,000 pesos, but he wants 3,000 pesos. That's why it's being litigated. However, what's happening right now is some of the judges sit on the case or do not release the case. So I'd just like to know from the Secretary two things. Number one, is this happening in only certain cases, or have they been experiencing this all around the country or in certain regions? And number two, what do they plan to do about it?
All right. These are not isolated cases. The Secretary informs that this happens all over the country. And precisely because of this problem, the Secretary has written the court administrator requesting that the Supreme Court issues the appropriate circular calling the attention of the lower court judges of this provision of the law, which would allow DPWH and public works projects to take possession once the amount is indicated, the amount indicated in the zonal value is deposited in the court. So, yes, this problem is recognized, and this is not, these are the cases that the gentleman from Taguig is aware of are not isolated. They are happening nationwide, and as a remedy, a request has been made to the court administrator for the appropriate circular to be issued.
I bring this up, Your Honor, because ang nasisisi parati DPWH. But and that is why Congress gave them this law. Actually, there are two laws. The one is when the amount is deposited, the zonal value, the judge is supposed to allow the taking of the possession or entry. Second is the no TRO law, that they're not allowed to issue TROs. But let me clarify, they're not allowed to TRO right-of-ways, not former presidents who are leaving the country. That is allowed. But anyway, Your Honor, maybe we can take it up during the budget of the Supreme Court, because I think there are a lot of projects that are being delayed precisely because of this. And maybe
I would appreciate it if the gentleman will bring it out in the budget of the judiciary.
Yes, Your Honor, but I will not mention any more about the TRO if the ex-president.
Don't. Please.
And maybe I'd just like to request more information or a copy of the letter of the Secretary so that we can make the proper representation. And I don't think there's any dispute about the law or the implementation. It's just really reminding our brother judges that precisely the intent of the law was to speed up all of these projects.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, the Secretary will provide the Senator this copy of this letter by tomorrow. Because, Mr. Secretary Singson, if the letter can be provided as tomorrow, as we will be having the judiciary budget for tomorrow.
Your Honor, RA 6685 mandates that contractors give priority to socially and financially disadvantaged residents to the LGUs for work relating to DPWH projects. I'd just like to know whether this is being implemented or if the Secretary plans to put up some sort of mechanism. Because, of course, when you say socially or financially disadvantaged, how do you do this? No? But it's a good law. I just don't know if it's being implemented or if there's a mechanism, but I'd like to encourage them to take a look at this and try to put up a mechanism of implementing this.
When contracts are implemented, 50% of the unskilled labor is sourced from the locality, Your Honor, where the project is located.
And is there a means for the DPWH to monitor this? Is the district engineers or the regional directors asking for a report for all of this?
Yes, it is being monitored.
Okay. So there are no flying residents, Your Honor. But
Well, there may
Here
be,
and
we
there.
cannot, you know.
But, Your Honor, Mr. President, I heard of certain areas in the United States wherein, when it is a government contract, the workers of the contractors are paid double, no? Because precisely they know that the contracts are lucrative. I appreciate, and I think Filipinos appreciate the effort of Secretary Singson. Some public officials, hindi ko na babanggitin yung mga kategory o mga posisyon nila ay medyo tumaas ang kilay or nagalit nung ginawa ni Secretary Singson ay pababayan ng presyo ng mga kontrata all around the country. And I think the DPWH family is proud of that now, no? That they had the political will, and I congratulate him for that. But obviously, contractors are still making money, and they should, because it's a profit-oriented business, and it's more efficient to do it also that way. But I just like to put that forward, that maybe the Secretary can study a way to get more money into the pockets of the people who are giving their labor, rather than simply the contractors making most of the profit, no? Without increasing the price of the contract. Again, how you'll do it or whatever, I leave the mechanism to you, but since he's been very bold in his initiatives, and it's barely 1/4 into this administration, I just like to put that idea forward, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you for that concept. The Secretary will review it, Mr. President.
The other concept, Your Honor, related to this, and I don't know if we need legislation. I have to admit I haven't done the legal research on this idea. No? Usually it is contractors who do have either the equipment or the capital to win the bid for these contracts. But I was wondering if we can have pilot projects, or again, the DPWH can study putting up construction cooperatives, wherein maybe for simple projects, no, pathways, basketball courts, pathways, waiting sheds, no, streets, yung ibang drainage na hindi mo naman kailangan ng architect or ng maybe a supervising engineer, no. But my point, Your Honor, is that in Europe, they had two effective mechanisms of transferring wealth, no, the estate tax and the progressive income taxation, no? But those two have failed in the country. No? Wealth is still very much concentrated in the very rich in the country. So the question really is how to get more jobs, how to put more money in people's pockets. No? So the city of Taguig is also studying this. If they can have let's say, any project 1 million below, maybe they can have equipment that they can rent or borrow rather than buy. No? But anyway, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, I just simply want to toss this to the DPWH Secretary, knowing that when he was in BCDA and here, he loves to innovate. So maybe they can study this, and I can ask again next year if there's a possibility. Especially, I think the problem is how they will win the bids. But the good thing about cooperatives is that since their finances have to be very open, I think it will also save on corruption or issues of lagayan and everything. And again, I'm talking about small contracts, no, 500,000 to 2 million maybe, Your Honor, and simple infrastructure projects.
Thank you for that idea again, Mr. President. Yes, it will be looked into by the Secretary.
Your Honor, ever since we approved the Undoy funds, this representation has insisted on an oversight committee and has insisted that it be published in the website. I know the projects that are being undertaken. I know that this administration simply inherited, and I do know, I read in the papers or saw on television that the good secretary canceled many of these Undoy projects, rehab projects, because they weren't bidded out. May I know if, after canceling these projects, are we now undertaking some of the projects for areas hit by Undoy?
Well, the projects are some of the projects under this Undoy fund has been completed. Others are in the process of being completed. Contracts have been entered into. So, because of the measures that reform measures undertaken, we were able to save a good portion of the funds. So new projects will be implemented under this Undoy fund.
Your Honor, out of the 11 billion Undoy funds, how much went to the DPWH?
$5 billion, Your Honor.
Okay. May I just ask for a report on because the reason I asked for this, Your Honor, is that every time we're asked to give special allocations for areas hit by calamity, the mayors, governors, the barangay captains tell us, baka naman walang umabot sa amin. So like in this case, ang pinakatinamaan ay Marikina, Taytay, Taguig, etc. But I don't know how much of that funds went to those areas na tinamaan. No? And I think we owe it to our people to be transparent about it. And so far, the Secretary has not only been transparent, but has been a reformist regarding this. But I don't want to face that possibility again, that we have to have special allocations, but then don't really know where it's going.
The information is available in the website, but we can, the Secretary will give a hard copy.
DPWH website? No,
Yes.
I can go to the DPWH.
Right.
The agreement, Your Honor, was that with the National Disaster Coordinating Council during that time, was that they will have a special website solely
Yes.
for Undoy funds, but they didn't do that, no? And then,
It is,
of course, they were
that
replaced.
website is now in existence.
Your Honor, what happened with the budget for PPP? I think it's 5 billion 2011 and 3 billion in 2012.
There is no... Okay lang yung PPP. Hindi ba may PPP report ka dyan? Hindi yung yung projects undertaken sa yung SLEX.
Your Honor, so that I won't delay the proceedings, I wouldn't mind just being informed with a letter or just updated in the funds of the PPP. Your Honor, the Secretary gave me this assurance, but I just like to put it on record and ask it formally. There is a major project that will be done in our city and will affect Southern Metro Manila, the C6. No? Right now, they call the road dike in the west of Mangahan floodway C6, but the real C6 is a 6 or 8 lane, 4 lane each. No? So 4 lanes, so 2 lane each way toll road. No? And I think they hired a Korean consultant to make the alignment. I just like to make sure that the Korean consultant consults LLDA and all of the LGUs that will be affected by the road. Because when DPWH in 1998 made the west of Mangahan, they did not consult the LGUs, and all of what we predicted happened. No? They weren't willing to spend 4 billion more to move the dike towards the lake, and that would have saved 1,100 hectares of land, because they said it will be 4 billion pesos more. Right now, the price of land 1 kilometer away from the dike is 30,000 per square. So can you imagine 1,100 hectares at 30,000 per square? 2 kilometers away, the price of land now there is 110,000 per square. So we just like to make sure, Your Honor, and put it on record that any alignment for this PPP project will have to be a product, no, not only of a foreign expert consultant, but also the RDC of Metro Manila, MMDA, LLDA, and the local governments of surrounding the Laguna Lake, Your Honor, because I think it's a great project. But I don't want to be standing here and arguing about the alignment a year from now, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. President, the endorsements of the LGU will be secured.
Your Honor, if I can have 3 minutes just to show something to our DPWH family. The former president granted them a piece of land in the city of Taguig, which incidentally is about 5 minutes from where I live. And we've been working with the secretary, his USECs, and the assistant secretaries and undersecretaries and the regional director. But I'd like the other members of the DPWH to see that there can be creativity, there can be value building in the DPWH. I do believe, Your Honor, that DPWH has often been in the top 5 or top 10 corrupt agencies. Whether it's perception, whether mainit lang sa kanila or whatever, we do know that our public officials are paid, have low pay. We do know that engineers in the private sector get much more, no? So I do believe that if we cannot raise the pay, we can at very least increase the benefits, no? And after they were granted this piece of land, we asked them if they could coordinate with the local government and with myself and some people to try to create value of their housing project rather than just the run-of-the-mill low-cost housing, Your Honor. So with your indulgence, if I can have 2-3 minutes just to show this, Your Honor. I take your nod as a yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
The next slide, please. The area is identified right in front of Camp Bagundiwa. This used to be a storage of equipment, no, for Region 4, 4A or 4B. No? And the next is one slide back, please. Yes. To show us where it is located, the dotted line is now the DPWH property. The property on the left is owned by the city, also declared through an executive order or proclamation given to a city college. If you'd notice, all around the properties are filled with houses of different shapes and colors. And basically, mura po ang lupa dyan dahil galing sa gobyerno at punong-puno ng mga bahay. Okay. The next slide. Next slide, please. This is what DPWH initially wanted to do in the past administration. Simply cut up all of the land and give and get a contractor and build houses. I'm not sure how big the lot cut but basically from 60 to 120 square meters. If this pushed through, basically there won't be much taxes collected by government because the houses would probably be worth less than $1 million, and the owners would have a house, but the property values would not really go up. If you see, there wouldn't be enough parking. There won't be sports facilities or anything, no? So again, together with the assistant secretaries and USECs under the direction of the secretary, we asked an urban planner to draw up a possible plan, no? So in the next slide, the front portion was allotted for a 5,000 square meter commercial block because in that whole area, wala pong commercial area. And it would make enough money to also help sustain the development. No? And then the lots were divided up in a row so that sa ilalim po may swimming pool, may clubhouse, may condominium, executive management, and then may parking sa ilalim. But still, the question here would be the cost, and the question would really be if this would create value, no? So in the next slide, they did a typical, for a condo plan, no? Typical plan, and if you go to the next slide, if you use condominiums rather than lots, this is how it will look like. And if you go to the next slide, and the next slide, please. The commercial area can possibly look like this. And next slide, please. And the medium-rise condominiums can look like this. And this is how the condominiums in that area looks like, no? In the Parañaque, Better Living, going to the Muntinlupa area. No? Take note that the location of this area is right beside the Bicutan interchange, and also there's access to the C5. And there's already access to the C6 that will be built. No? Next slide. So the facilities can be built in, the clubhouse, the swimming pool, the basketball court or tennis court. No? And that's the end of the presentation. Of course, it's up to the Secretary to make a final decision, and it will be up to property developers like the private sector. No? But we'd just like to show the difference of simply giving out, government giving out land and saying, bibigyan namin kayo ng tig 60 square meters, and putting our heads together on how the district engineers, assistant district engineers, at ibang empleyado can not only create value. The Pag-ibig now has a funds, no, for this, and said that they're open to talks of how to fund this para kasya sa sweldo ng mga opisyales. Anyway, Mr. Secretary, we were going to discuss this in private, but I thought that your people should know that you are in fact working on micro projects with certain people all around. And this is quite a small lot. Maraming ibang lote sa iba-ibang region ng DPWH. And if you can make, the irony here is kayo ang builders eh. Di ba? With the DOTC or the NHA, kayo ang gumagawa eh. So can you imagine if you can make a model housing program, then maybe the other agencies or the 1.3 million government workers can find hope in doing this all over the country. So thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, and I won't take up much more of your time. But again, I'd like to ask the Secretary to actively pursue and continue to support projects like this. And I hope it becomes a reality. Right now, it's drawings or plans, but let's see what will happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Cayetano.